Hey guys, it's Noah with American Trucks, and I'm going to be talking to you about the AFE Apollo GT Series 3-inch muffler upgrade fitting the 2019 and newer 5.3 liter Silverado 1500. Now, if you want some more noise without paying for or installing a whole exhaust system, then a simple muffler upgrade would be a great choice for you. And this is going to fall at a 3 out of 5 on the Wake the Neighbor scale. When you think about an exhaust upgrade, usually you go right to a full system like a catback or an axleback. Now, those larger exhaust upgrades are by far the most common, but they aren't for everybody. Now, if you just want a simple muffler upgrade in exchange for some more noise, but keep the rest of the exhaust factory, there are kits like this one from AFE, and they will do just that. Now, all you need to do is cut your factory muffler off and slap this guy in place like it never happened. Now, this muffler is very free-flowing and open on the inside, and you'll definitely get some more feeling in the pedal as well as some more sound, obviously. Now, the tubing here is actually 3-inch through the muffler, and it's 3-inch in diameter on this piece as well, so it's really going to open things up. Let's dive into this guy a little bit farther. It's completely constructed from high-grade 304 stainless steel. Now, 304 stainless is the strongest grade of steel available as far as exhaust goes, and it's unbelievably resistant to corrosion and rust when you put it up against the elements. So this is a great option for you guys who live in the Rust Belt or in areas and places that have tons of salt in the roads with nasty brine like they do at my house. Now, like I said earlier, this is designed to be a direct muffler replacement, so this is built to fall right in place of the factory muffler. Now, everything you need as far as hangers and clamps are all stainless, and they all come in the box. Now, last but certainly not least, this will come from AFE with a 2-year warranty. The AFE Apollo GT muffler costs around $260. Now, probably the best thing about a muffler upgrade like this is the price tag when it's compared to a full exhaust system, which would be drastically more expensive. Now, this is a great way to save a few dollars and avoid committing to a large install. Speaking of install, you're looking at a difficulty of 2 out of 3 wrenches, but only about a 45-minute install time. Now, that difficulty is higher because of the fact that you need to cut your factory muffler out to replace it with this guy. It won't take you very long though, and to help you with the install, next we have an AT customer who's going to walk you through the whole install process on their own Silverado.
Alright, so the tools needed to complete this install. I'll be using 2 jack stands to secure the stock muffler while I remove it, a measuring tape to measure out my lines where to cut, a Sharpie marker to mark the lines, safety glasses while I make the cuts. To make the cuts, I'll be using a reciprocating saw with a 9-inch metal cutoff blade. After the muffler is removed, to clear off any loose burrs, I'll be removing those with an angle grinder and a flap disc. Then to tighten down the clamps initially, I'll be using an impact driver with a 15mm deep socket. And then to make my final tightening, I'll be using a torque wrench to the specified specs. Alright, we're going to be installing the AFE Power Apollo GT muffler. This will be a direct replacement for the factory Silverado muffler. In the box, you'll get your muffler assembly, your adapter pipe, 2 2 3/4 clamps, and 1 3-inch clamp, assembly instructions, and some stickers. Alright, for the first step, we're going to get under the car and mount the muffler with jack stands. Alright, with the jack stands in place, our next step is to mark our lines for our cutting. At the front of the muffler, our first line is going to be as close as we can to the muffler. So I'm going to cut it right in front of the weld here. And mark that with a marker if you need to. And at the rear of the muffler, we're going to mark our line as well. We're going to go 2 3/4. I'm going to go from the rear of the weld here. Mark it in a couple different places. Alright, for the next step, now that we have our lines marked, we have our muffler secure, we're going to go ahead and cut the stock muffler off. I'm going to be using the reciprocating saw to do this. And for the front of the muffler, we're going to be, like I said, marking that line, cutting as close as we can to the muffler. now we'll go to the back and do the same thing. Okay, and at the rear of the muffler, we're going to be cutting where we marked that line that was 2 3/4 inches from the rear of the muffler. All right, with the front and rear cut, we can now remove the factory muffler. And that'll slide right out of there. Okay, and before I install the muffler, I'm going to go ahead and take care of a few of these burrs that I have on the pipe. For that, I'm just going to be using a flap disc on an angle grinder, and we'll get started. All right, that should take care of that. All right, we're now ready to install the AFE muffler. And for this, I'm going to start at the rear. I'm going to go ahead and slip the adapter pipe onto the rear section of the exhaust. And I'm going to slide that back as far as I can until it won't go anymore. And then we're going to move up to the front part of the exhaust. All right, and now at the front of the muffler, you'll have a little play in this pipe. It will be tight, but due to the flex pipe, you can actually move this out of the way and then kind of push the muffler over until everything's aligned. And then go ahead and slide your muffler all the way to the front. And then you want to look to make sure that nothing's showing and that the pipe is covered. Everything looks good up here. Go ahead and position that how you want it. And then we'll look at the rear of the muffler and just want to make sure the pipe and everything is covered there, that there's no holes or gaps that air can come out of. Everything looks good there, and everything looks good at the rear as well. So now that everything's in place, you're going to want to make sure that your pipe is angled how you want it, that it's not touching anything. And this muffler is quite a bit smaller than the factory one, so clearance is definitely not an issue anywhere on it. All right, so then you can go ahead and position your clamps how you want them. And we'll go ahead and get our tools ready to tighten this down. All right, now it's time to tighten down our clamps. We're gonna kind of want to do this with even pressure across, starting at the front clamp. So again, this is a good time to double check everything, make sure it's where you want it positioned. And with your 15mm, go ahead and tighten that down. Okay, don't get too snug just yet. And we'll move to the rear and get those tightened as well. All right, at the rear section, you're gonna want to do the same thing to the rear two clamps. All right, and I'm just leaving about 1/4 of an inch on each end there for play. And we're going to do the same to the very back clamp as well. Again, I'm just double checking that everything's covered. Everything looks good. We're going to snug this down a little bit as well. All right, and it looks like I will need a deep socket due to the bolt sticking out, so let me get that real quick. All right, with all the clamps in place, muffler's secure where I want it, I'm going to go back to the front and tighten everything back down once more. All right, so back at the front, I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this one down. All right, now I'll go back to the rear. All right, we're gonna do the same thing to the rear clamps as well. And the last one. All right, we're solid. All right, and per the instructions, it does say to tighten these down 40 to 45 pounds foot torque. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. There we go. And we're gonna go to the rear and do the same thing. All right, do the same thing and tighten these down as well. And the last one. All right, everything's tightened down to 45 foot-pounds per the directions. Everything is super solid. Everything looks good. Next step is to turn it on and check for any leaks.
That was the AFE Apollo GT Series 3-inch muffler upgrade fitting the 19 and newer 5.3 liter Silverado 1500. For all things Silverado, go ahead and keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.